I'm Jaya Rathanathan, CEO of BCT Digital.
My name is Kasturi Rangan. I'm a Vice President Product Evangelist at BCT Digital.
Hi, I'm Shankar, a banker turned fintech enthusiast who now handles pre-sales and solutioning at BCT Digital.
Hi, I'm Rajiv and I'm a data scientist. I take care of the predictive analytics part of AWS.
Hi, my name is Ashish Jajodia and I am a functional consultant in BCT Digital.
Banks came up with a very interesting guideline in 2015, which was on early warning systems. What should banks do to predict incipient stress in the loan book? So stress can come from two things. Stress can come from frauds. Stress can also come from the ability of the people that you've lent the money to and their capacity to repay. So the guidelines addressed both the issues, and it came as a guideline when it was published by RBI in 2015. It moved on, and RBI has been quite ahead of some of the global regulators as far as the problem of NPAs go. Because as you know, we are one of the countries with a very high percentage of NPAs, and therefore RBI has taken a very strict view on what are the systems that should be in place. RBI started with just saying that you need to have 42 alerts. And you need to not only look at traditional data sources, such as your loan origination system, your payment patterns, coming back and saying like a check bounced, rather than saying why did it bounce, what is the frequency of it bouncing, and looking at all other parameters that come not only from traditional data sources, but also from big data sources. Like let's try to address a simple question, RBI says, which is diversion of funds. Traditional way of looking at it was looking at the beneficiary information, seeing how many times the payment has gone in, whereas when you look at the whole gamut of the 42 RBI alerts, and then subsequently DFS came up with the 80 plus alerts. If you look at the gamut of the entire alerts, it says look at big data sources, keeping in time with what is happening in terms of the technology trends. It says find out if they were in the news for the wrong reasons, where they're subjected to frequent management audits, where there are corporate actions like did the directors dump their shares, or look in association with other banks and see if the same collateral has been pledged with multiple banks. So it looks at it from a holistic view of what are the different sources you can tap, looks at it in terms of how do you look at the data. So we have up to 3,000 decision points that RBI is encouraging you to look at and come up with a macro view on how do you predict stress in the portfolio.
Talking about AWS, it's very interesting how we can trace back the history. Way back in 2014-15, the banking industry went through a severe credit crisis, and RBI came up with a circular on the guidelines on the early warning signals. So while on one hand banks had to comply with those regulations, on the other hand banks faced the challenges of a list of customers turning into millions of them. And there was other issue of how banks would monitor it when many of the transactions happen through the digital mode. So a thought came about of developing a digital solution to monitor these customers. So that's how that initial thought was seeded.
We at BCT Digital have not been just category leaders, but category definers in the credit risk space in India. Starting from 2014, when the RBI gave a guiding principles on managing credit risk, we were the first ones to come out with a physical manifestation of this in the form of an AWS product, which a bank would, a credit risk management suite in a box, which a bank could just install and get going. So we have come a long way from then. And well, the whole idea of an early warning system is to catch credit events and possible frauds much before it becomes too late to recover the funds. Now this is moving fast towards more of real-time monitoring and, if possible, even prevention of suspicious transactions.
During our initial addition phase of EWS, we did realize as a banker, they need to understand their customer relative strength in turn, and to identify the relative strength, they need some kind of a scoring mechanism to scale a customer over other. That's where basically the idea of a EWS score came, and during the development phase we used the internal and external signals we received, identified their patterns and converted them using advanced AI and ML techniques to come up with the score. These scores not only help these banks to understand the relative risk, and that also basically come up with some kind of a grading mechanism which alert them for the high risk customers, as well as also let them know who are the same low risk customer where they can focus.
Talking about one of the highlight of our solution is the third party data integration, which we have done for many banks. The integration is all about integrating our solution with third party like credit bureaus and data aggregators. It's kind of a near real time monitoring for the banks.
Compliance has always been a villain, again, because it's considered to be a huge spend area. For once, this is a compliance project that has huge ROI in the very first year you deploy. And NPAs are typically ranging in India 9 to 10%, let's say 10% for ease of calculation. So you're looking at 5 billion in terms of non-performing assets. And simply by having a system in place, you would look at a 1% minimal reduction in NPAs, which is again putting taxpayers' money back into the economy, and that's a huge plus. And there is no other compliance project that gives you this kind of return in today's scenario. We have a very robust website and we have contacts. Our information is on, so I would be happy if they reach out to us. But in general, when you look at it, we are present with public sector banks in a big way. We have implemented it for a number of public sector banks in India. We have also implemented it for private sector banks. I think leading the way forward are also the cooperative banks and NBFCs as they come under the RBI ambit. And there are different models from our perspective that we are also looking at, which is more an operational SaaS type of model, where we would look at transaction pricing rather than looking at on-prem kind of a model, which are the need of the hour for public sector banks. So there are different ways of engagement in which we would bring that and bring it at a cost that is acceptable to the customer and something that all of us can benefit from, because ultimately it's all about the money that's coming back to our Indian taxpayer.